some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me? You're me, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Giants, Bucs, exactly what we thought we were going to get. The Buccaneers bouncing back from an disappointing performance against Washington last week. Meanwhile, this Giants team coming off their bye, getting a bunch of guys back healthy, didn't make one bit of difference on the offensive side of the football. They stink offensively. Daniel Jones is horrible. And, I was one of those guys that said, you need more time on Daniel Jones. He had one really good year that first year. All the turnovers were definitely something to be concerned about. But, the guy threw for 30 some odd touchdowns, I believe, in his rookie season. If not, I think it was 29 touchdowns and like 13 interceptions, 14 interceptions, whatever it was. Or I think it was 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and then all the fumbles and things of that nature. But he played well that first year. And last year, you had Saquon out, all the injuries, and, he was banged up a little bit himself, and offensive line was a mess, and it was the first year of Joe Judge. So, first year of Jason Garrett. So you make excuses. Oh, give him another shot. Let's see what happens. They get healthy. They get a bunch of guys in year two in that offensive system, yada, yada, yada. Daniel Jones stinks. He's the worst quarterback in the NFC East. I never thought I would say that because there's Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts at least has one trait that is something that you can't take away from him, and it's something that he'll be able to do and replicate week after week after week, and that's use his legs. If nothing else, if all else fails with Jalen Hurts, at least he can run for 112 yards. Daniel Jones is incapable of being consistent. 1 week, he's wowing you in a come-from-behind victory against the Saints on the road. The next week, he's stinking it up and throwing the football over the field, and they can't get any points, and they're losing, at home to the Atlanta Falcons. The next week, he's playing a masterful game against Washington, which seems to be the only team he has any success against and knows how to play well against. And then the next week, he looks like this. They're coming off of a bye. You're getting Saquon Barkley back. I get it. It's the Buccaneers. Their defense is going to be fired up because of what happened to them last week. And they were going to come out and play their best brand of football. And they looked awful, did the Giants tonight. I mean, the two turnovers that Daniel Jones had in the second half, those are the things that right there you just say, all right, get this guy the hell out of here. Like the first one, you say, who are you throwing the football to? What are you doing? Okay, they got us. They got us. Like, I love watching the reactions of the Mannings when something stupid, especially Eli when the Giants are playing, because he wants them to win so badly and they stink. And he wants Daniel Jones. Both of them want Daniel Jones to be good because he's a great friend of the family. He went to Duke. He was coached by Peyton Manning's head coach at Tennessee, David Cutcliffe. And so he was a part of the Manning Academy, and they just love Daniel Jones, especially Eli, man. He just loves him. Ex-teammate. Eli passed the torch to Daniel Jones. He just loves they just love him. They want him to be good. He stinks, and they know it. They know it. And that interception, they're like, what are you doing? Okay, we're running some type of throwback screen. It didn't work, or I don't know what he was looking at. The guy was wide ass open in front of him. Literally, he could have lofted it in the air like a punt. He would have caught it. He was so wide open. You had another tight end over in the on the same side of the field as he was, wide open, but that's not what the play was drawn up to do. It was drawn up to get the football to one of those two receivers on the opposite side of the field. You run one way and you stop, you plant, you turn the other way, you throw it back. And he throws it to the only colored jersey, the only guy wearing a solid red jersey on the opposite side of the field. Like, he could have thrown it anywhere else. He would have found green grass or a white jersey. He throws it to the one guy wearing a red jersey. Unbelievable. Like, that pick right there to me is a microcosm of the career of Daniel Jones to this point, where you just go, what the hell are you doing? What were you thinking when you did that? It reminded me of the week 1 loss against the Steelers 2 years ago. I want to say it was last year, as a matter of fact. I think it was last year. And they had this beautiful drive. It's like 13 plays, 85 yards. They're down to like the 1 or 2 yard line. And you're like, wow, they might actually beat the Steelers in week 1. This is crazy, right? And you're watching this thing and they're hanging in. I think the score might have been like 10-7 at the time. The Steelers were up, or 13-7. And, we're in the third quarter. So this is a big drive. And they're moving it down the field and they get all the way to the 1 yard line. And this clown rolls out to his left. I think it's like first or second down. So they've got another down or two to make this thing happen. Worst case scenario was third down. It wasn't fourth down. He didn't have to do this. I think it was either first or second down, to be honest with you. This clown rolls out to his left, is under siege, throws it up for grabs. It gets picked off, and the Steelers ultimately run away and hide and win that football game. The game was never the same. And that's the kind of stupid shit Daniel Jones does. And at this point, if I'm a Giants fan, I'm like, okay, get his ass the hell out of here. This guy absolutely stinks. I kind of think they need to take the approach that the Bears took with Mitchell Trubisky and just say, okay, we effed up. We made a mistake. And you just move on. All right, we messed up. All right, and you just move on from your mistake. It happens. Like there's no reason to pick up the 5th-year option here. You don't pick it up. And I think if you're the Giants, I read an article, I want to say it was a week ago, that said there could be upwards of 6 or 7 quarterbacks drafted in the first round of the upcoming draft, which is a crazy number. I don't believe it, but I could see 6 or 7 drafted in the first 2 rounds. And if I'm the Giants, you probably need to be one of those teams looking to draft one of those 6 or 7 quarterbacks going in the first or second round. Because you're going to stink. Yeah, you'll win 2 or 3 more games, but look at the rest of the league, okay? 2 or 3 more wins is going to put you right in position to have a top 5 pick. The only outlier is going to be the Lions. Everyone else is going to win 4 or 5 games this season, okay? Jacksonville's going to win another game or 2. Houston's going to win another game or 2. You're going to look around, and everyone's going to have 5 wins. So the bottom isn't going to be like it has been in past years where 2, 3 wins. You need that to win, to have the second or third pick. You got 5 wins. It's a coin flip as to whether you've got the 5th or 6th pick in the draft. And this Giants team is going to end up with that if he continues to play this way. And that's the crazy part is the Giants in 2 weeks, they'll have a crazy game against somebody and he'll play well and they'll win. And that's why, that's why my guy Emperor Meach is probably so frustrated, yet he clamors for that. Like teetering on the edge of they're close. I've said all along, if you want change, which he does, you need this thing to bottom out. And it's games like this that start trending in that direction of bottoming out. But like we talked about before, he'll have, next week or the week after that, he'll play the Eagles next week. He might have a fantastic game. They beat the Eagles. They upset the Eagles. And all is right in the world with Daniel Jones. And that's the dilemma that they found themselves in over these first 3 years of his career. I'm done with him. I'm not a Giants fan, so it doesn't really matter to me. They could keep him for as long as they like, even though he kicks our ass every time he sees us. I don't give a shit. He doesn't beat anybody else. So as far as I'm concerned, they could keep him. His play will keep the Giants as one of the worst teams in the NFC East because he's so inconsistent. And, if it's not in front of his face, if you put any pressure on this guy, he is a turnover machine. As far as the defense is concerned, they tried to blitz a little bit more to, give Patrick Graham a little bit of credit. They tried to blitz a little bit more tonight, but they're too vanilla defensively, if you ask me. They sit back and they allow teams like Brady. At one point, I think going into the fourth quarter, Brady hadn't been sacked and he hadn't even been hit. He was just hurried once. I mean, his jersey looked, brand new, like they just got it out of the box and they hung it up for him. Like, it was ridiculous. And so that's part of the problem. And I've talked about that with the Giants over the years. They don't get any pressure on the quarterback unless you generate it via the blitz, and they don't blitz enough. Patrick Graham simply doesn't blitz enough, I don't think. And, it doesn't matter how many guys they draft. They draft Azeez Ojulari. They drafted O'Shane Eximides. They draft all of these different guys, and they get the same results. Nothing essentially out of these dudes. And so I don't feel bad for them though, because they had Marcus Golden, who got him 10 sacks last year, and they let him walk after the season. So that's on them. They had a guy that had double-digit sacks for him, and they just figured he wasn't good enough. They weren't going to pay him, and they let him walk. So now they're still getting no pressure on the quarterback. So don't feel bad for him. That's part of the reason why they stink, is because Dave Gettleman is awful. Their quarterback is awful, and I'm not a big Joe Judge guy. So I think he probably is awful too. But I don't know about Joe Judge. I just know that he thinks he's Bill Belichick, and he's not. So go figure, right? That's what all the guys at League New England think they are. They think they're going to run it like Belichick, and they forget one thing: they're not Belichick. But let's get to the winners in this game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They needed this game. I've said this all year long. If you're a team that's really good and you hit a rough patch, it's nothing like seeing an NFC East team on the schedule, because they'll get you back where you need to be. The Chiefs hit the reset button 3 different times against the NFC East, and finally they got their shit together, right? They got off to a rough start. They were 1-2 on the season. Here come the Philadelphia Eagles to save the day, get them back to 500. They're struggling again. They're back under 500. Here comes Washington at 3-4 to save the day, to get them back to 500. And then they were in the midst of that little streak there. They beat Washington, but then I think they lost again to someone, and then they won a game, and then there were the Giants sitting there like, okay, now we can actually win 2 in a row. There's no crazy team here to knock us off of our streak. Now we can actually build some confidence. And they beat them, then they beat the Raiders, and now they beat Dallas, and now they're on their way. So the NFC East has been the remedy for anyone that has been struggling. That's a really good football team. The Packers couldn't seem to get a stop in the red zone. They were 15 of 15 in terms of giving it up until they met Washington in week number 6, where they had an over day where they kept Washington out of the end zone on 5 different red zone trips and didn't give up a single point. And all of a sudden now their defense is on tilt. Like the Packers defense, they're shutting everybody down. Nobody can seem to score a bunch of points on them except the Minnesota Vikings this past weekend. But they had it going for a while there where their defense was just dominant. So NFC East rules in full effect. Tampa Bay needed a win. They had lost 2 in a row to the likes of Trevor Siemian and Taylor Heinicke. The defense was looking a little suspect. The offense wasn't in a groove. They're still kind of not where they want to be offensively, because they should have put up 40 tonight. The Buccaneers early in the season that put up 45 on the Dolphins and put up, a 40 piece on, other teams around. They would have put up a 40 piece tonight, because the Giants were vulnerable in a position to give up 40 plus. But they're still not quite clicking on offense. But that said, the defense was outstanding tonight. After a slow start, allowing the Giants to hang around. How about that catch by Andrew Thomas? It's the second week in a row we've had a big man touchdown. Last week it was taken away from Hunt of the Dolphins. This week, Andrew Thomas climbing the ladder and extending for the football, and then having a little dance with the offensive lineman. I love it. Love big man touchdowns. But outside of that, that was the highlight of the game for the Giants. Outside of that, they were awful, and the Buccaneers were the reason they were awful. That defense got after Daniel Jones. They made him uncomfortable, especially in the second half. He was under siege, and they quit. And that's, if I'm a Giants fan, the finish to this game is probably the most disheartening. I remember just applying it to my favorite team, the Washington football team. I remember the most disappointed I was after a game this season was when we lost to the Chiefs, and we were in the game. As a matter of fact, we were leading at halftime 13-10. Our kicker, our former kicker, Dustin Hopkins, missed a field goal, chip shot that would have put us up 16-10. And after that, the Chiefs kind of just took the momentum and never gave it back. They scored a touchdown after the missed field goal. They take the lead 17-13. We had no response. We had no fight. We go 3 and out, give it right back to them. They take it right down the field, boat race us. Touchdown, 24-13. Then Heinicke throws an inexplicable interception right to a defensive lineman. They score another touchdown. We quit in the game is essentially what I'm getting at. We quit. We said, this is the Chiefs. We're not good enough. they started to score, and we went in the corner and hid in the fetal position. We quit. And that's the one thing I never want to see from any team that I root for, is that you quit. The Giants quit tonight. The Buccaneers emptied their bench, and Daniel Jones was probably under siege more with the backups in the game. Like, that's the time where you're supposed to get some garbage time stats, make this thing look a lot closer than it really is. The backups came in, and they were absolutely destroying Daniel Jones and that offensive line. They quit. This team is a mess. And the Buccaneers' second team might have been able to beat the Giants' first team tonight. And this is the kind of win that will, build the Buccaneers' confidence. They need it. I think they got Indy next week. Like, shit's about to get real. Their schedule, let me take a look at their schedule. I think their schedule is about to ratchet up a bit. They've got some NFC South games that's going to help them run their record, because the Falcons stink. And, the Panthers, that's going to be an interesting situation. I don't think they've played the Panthers yet, if I'm not mistaken. So now that they've got Cam, that could get really interesting in terms of how those games go against the Panthers. But they've got the Saints again. The Saints are, I think, free falling. I think they're heading in the wrong direction. So they got the Colts next week. Then they got the Falcons. Then they got the Bills. The Bills are pissed off. That's going to be a good game. Then they got the Saints. That's on a Sunday night. I think they'll take care of the Saints handily then. Then the Panthers twice in a 3-week stretch to end the game, and the Jets are sandwiched in between. This Buccaneers team has a chance to do what they did last year, and that's get hot. Now, there is no bye week to save them this time around. They just had their bye week, and they just came off of it, the week prior to the Washington loss. So there's no bye week to get them in order. But, after the Buccaneers, or after the Bills game, Saints, Panthers, Jets, Panthers, if you can find a way to get on your horse right there, and who knows, maybe this game against the Giants gives you the confidence you need to go into Indy, knock off the red-hot Indianapolis Colts. Then all of a sudden you're going to smoke the Falcons, and that might give you enough of a runway to now be ready to throttle the Bills, because they've shown the ability to get their asses handed to them this year, a couple of times against some really good teams. So, you may get to a point where you get hot and you start cutting through some of these teams, even the good ones, like a hot knife through butter. And I could see you getting on a little streak here late in the season and ending up with the number 1 seed in the NFC. I'm not going to bullshit you, because, nobody really wants it. The Arizona Cardinals are interesting because they found ways to win with Kyler Murray out the last 3 weeks. They've won 2 out of those 3 games. That's impressive. But I think the Rams have something fundamentally wrong with them. I think the Cowboys have shown that they're inconsistent. They're a really good team when they're on, but they're inconsistent at best. And the Packers, I think that they're a mirage offensively. I've said it already. I don't believe in the Packers offensively. And, maybe their defense will be the crown jewel of everything and ultimately save the day. And it'd be ironic if they win another Super Bowl and it's actually the defense that leads them instead of Aaron Rodgers. But I don't really believe in the Packers offensively this season, as crazy as that sounds with Aaron Rodgers still at the helm. So I look at the Buccaneers. I still think they're the most complete team. If they can get healthy, that's going to be the biggest thing. The secondary needs to get right. They got Sean Murphy Bunting off of IR today, and he played for the first time since like week 1. So, they're starting to get some pieces back. If they can get that secondary somewhat healthy and then start to get some of these offensive pieces. It was good to see Gronk back out there tonight. They'll get AB back probably next week. All of a sudden now they start to look like their former selves, and then they become dangerous again. So I'm still not moving off of the Buccaneers train. I still think they're one of the better teams in the NFC, and we'll see what happens with them. But this was a get-right game, and they used it the way they were supposed to. Took them a little while to rev up the engine. The Giants hung tough for a little while there, but ultimately this is a get-right game, and they used it as such, and they get the win 30-10 to get to 7-3 on the season. And again, 1 game back of the lead in the NFC conference. So they're right where they need to be to strike. Should Seattle or, in Green Bay just slipped up, but they've got a bye coming up. They've played 11 games. Most of the teams in the NFC have played 10. Same with the Arizona Cardinals, they played 11. They haven't had their bye week yet. They're having their bye week, as a matter of fact, this week. That was the discussion. Should they play Kyler Murray on the road against Seattle, or let him sit out, have the additional week, and have him be fully 100% healthy? They made the right decision as Colt McCoy went into Seattle and got the win. And so their half game, because they've had their bye, and Arizona and Green Bay have not. Green Bay's got one more game that Aaron Rodgers is going to try to get through with the toe injury, and then he's going to have a bye week to try to get himself in order for the stretch run. So they're just a half game back of both the Cardinals and the Green Bay Packers. And so I like where the Buccaneers sit, and they took care of business tonight the way they were supposed to. And now that makes me feel good as a Washington fan, because I can lay claim to being the only team in the division that beat the big bad Bucs, So that feels good. Feels good. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. And let's start with a super chat from Captain Spartan 04. Thank you for the super chat, Captain Spartan. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Cap writes, I can't match Big Money Sonny from last night. I mean, no one's matching Big Money Sonny from last night, nor should you be trying to chase that. That's like chasing a ghost. A Big Money Sonny was on one last night. Truly appreciate him for making last night a very, very memorable show. It was a really good game, but that'll be a memorable show for other reasons, obviously. He says, but wanting to show some love. We appreciate you, Lou, so much for all you do. Greatest content maker out there. Someone we can all talk all day to, football or life. And I appreciate that, Cap. And again, that's what I tried to do is, I always say I try to implement the 3 E's, entertain, educate, enlighten, So if I can accomplish that, in certain episodes, it's 1 E shining above the rest, whether it's enlightenment, or in other shows, in most shows, it's the entertainment piece. I try to entertain you guys, whatever you got going on in your life or whatever you've got going on in general. I try to give you a reprieve from that. That's what sports are. They're a distraction. That's what I try to be from time to time. It's just a brief distraction from whatever may be going on in your life. And we can all use that sometimes. So I appreciate y'all. And you guys, I told you guys are just as therapeutic for me as I am for some of you out there. So it goes both ways. I just love doing this, and you guys make this enjoyable. All of you guys play a part in making the Louie T Network what it is. But I can't begin to thank all of you for what you do. And I didn't know you were the person that sent me that Aaron Donald clip. That was you on Twitter. So now I know. I mean, you told me after the fact. I didn't know that was you. So, and now I can put 2 and 2 together. So thank you. Anyway, really appreciate you, Captain Spartan, and happy holidays to you and yours. See if we got any more super chats, and we do. Another one from Captain Spartan. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Captain. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Captain Spartan, writes, all right, let's fix the Giants. Fire Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge. Let go Shepard, Peppers, Hernandez, Shelton, and Ingram. Hire Eagles OC and keep current DC. Trade for Mariota. So fundamentally, I don't like the idea of moving on from Jabril Peppers. He's actually been really good for them. But Shepard's always hurt. He's never healthy. So I'd say you could move on from him and feel good. I don't know what his contractual situation looks like, but I'd be on board with moving on from him. He's never healthy. Ingram has been a massive disappointment for the Giants. So yes, I think you can move on from him as well. Danny Shelton, I feel like he just got there not too long ago, but Hernandez has been a bit of a disappointment. He was supposed to be, throwing guys out of the bar type of guard when they drafted him out of UTEP. He's been, so a lot of guys on that team that may be a little bit of a dead weight situation. They've made some trades that haven't worked, and it all kind of traces back to Dave Gettleman. But trading for Mariota on a team that has had a bunch of guys that can't stay healthy trading for a guy that his career has been marred by his inability to stay healthy doesn't seem like a smart idea to me. That's the biggest problem with Marcus Mariota is he didn't even start in Vegas and he pulled a hamstring and had to miss 4 games. Like, that's part of the reason Marcus Mariota, I don't think anyone can really ever truly say, I'm going to go and salvage Marcus Mariota and make him my starting quarterback because, at some point he's going to get hurt. And they're just guys that are just like that. Their bodies, constantly fail them. And I just talked about Sterling Shepard. There's something always wrong with Sterling Shepard. And it's just sometimes it's just, just being unlucky, the freakish accidents, but it is what it is. And Mariota is one of those guys. So I think, firing Gettleman and Judge, is the start. But I don't know if that's good enough to just fix what's wrong with the Giants. They got some talent, though. And that's the thing. If you can get the right quarterback in there and get the right coach in there, you might have a shot, But the biggest problem is that they continue to make some of the same mistakes over and over and over again. Like, you went out and got all these weapons offensively. Why? Because your general manager wanted to prove to everyone that he didn't make a mistake on Daniel Jones. And I don't have a problem with that. It's the same thing the Denver Broncos did for Drew Lock. Like, we're taking away all of your excuses. And that was my thing when we came into this season. It's like, we're going to find out about Daniel Jones. I don't want to hear any shit after this season about lack of weapons, this, that, and the third, offensive line this, offensive line that. They got him some weapons. Yeah, Saquon being hurt sucks. It stinks. But I told you, I said, you got a quality backup running back in Devontae Booker. The offense isn't going to fall off of a table, off of a cliff, if Saquon goes down. Because you still got a quality back. And he showed you that against the Panthers. Devontae Booker is a quality number 2 NFL back. So I don't want to hear anything about Saquon getting hurt. No, he's not Saquon Barkley, but he's good enough. It's not like you had to deal with Wayne Gallman and Devontae Freeman like you did last year when he got hurt, when you really had nothing at the running back position. Yeah, you got a good quality back. And these receivers have been tagging in and out of the lineup, but there have been enough of them healthy throughout the season. Daniel Jones just stinks. It's called a spade a spade. He just stinks. But it helps when guys are healthy and they're on the field, but he's not good enough to elevate the play of others around him. He needs the team to be in perfect. And in today's NFL, like, it's crazy because I look at Taylor Heinicke, and I hate to always bring everything full circle back to Washington, but I look at Taylor Heinicke, and the man has dealt with a bunch of different, obstacles being thrown in his way. The offensive line, for the most part, has been good, and they've been consistent in front of him, which is something Daniel Jones hasn't been afforded. But again, you make do with what you have, right? We've had injuries, and again, that goes back to your general manager. We've had injuries on the offensive line just like any other team has, except our depth isn't garbage. So when a guy goes down and we got to put in a backup tackle or backup guard, or at one point we played our 3rd center in the game the other day and our 4th center of the season, and it was no drop off. Now it was only for a few snaps, but we were on our 3rd center in the game, and we had no issues with Derek Brown and one of the better defensive lines in football in the Carolina Panthers. We had no issues. But Taylor Heinicke is able to elevate his level of play in those around him. He's taking a guy like DeAndre Carter, who never had, guy who's been in the league for 6 years, never had a receiving touchdown. He's had a receiving touchdown in the last 3 games. Like, Taylor Heinicke is elevating other guys around him. Cam Sims is becoming a fixture on the team again and getting involved. He's making guys like John Bates become a household name again. I get it. It's John Bates' first start, and we're hoping that he goes back to being a number 2 tight end here shortly with the arrival of Logan Thomas back into the lineup. But John Bates makes a big play, and so what I'm essentially getting to is, even though we've got injuries and Curtis Samuel hasn't been available and De'Ami Brown was in and out of the lineup, we've had, this ragtag bunch of guys out there at times, Heinicke has still been able to flourish and make things happen despite some of the injuries. And he's a young guy and he's making mistakes as young quarterbacks do. But you can see the ability to elevate his play and elevate those around him. I don't get that sense with Daniel Jones. I just don't. But I could be wrong. And because nowhere in here did you say anything about getting rid of Daniel Jones. I don't see that. And I think he's a part of the problem too. So, and I see you said trade for Mariota. I don't really, and to me, he would fit their offense perfectly, because of the type of quarterback that he is, that him and Daniel Jones being on the same team would, they kind of mirror each other. But I don't think that would fix the Giants getting Mariota. They need to try to draft a young guy and start over. I think they need to hit the reset button, honestly. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Twin D. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, if Philly gets any D-line pressure, we'll see what we saw tonight. The Giants' O-line is awful. Also, thanks for introducing us to Bad Dog. Listening to them live stream during the game was hilarious because they're watching this and he's probably going nuts watching how awful they are. And yeah, you're welcome, because he is definitely a treat when it comes to the Giants. He'll go off and throw a temper tantrum at moment's notice, and rightfully so. They stink. And Daniel Jones is awful, and he never wanted Daniel Jones. I don't blame him, just like I never wanted Dwayne Haskins. And sometimes as a fan, you have no choice. You're at the mercy of your organization, and when they do things you don't agree with and you turn out to be right, it makes you even more frustrated. And Daniel Jones stinks. And so Bad Dog is over there probably just losing his mind and blowing a gasket because the opportunity to be in this football game was there. Like, the Buccaneers didn't blow them out of the water like they should have. They should have lost this game by 30 points, but instead they had opportunities in this game, and Daniel Jones pissed them away with his poor play. So, yeah, it's a little frustrating, and you're right. If the Eagles can get pressure on him, this upcoming week, they'll destroy them. And I'm anxious to see what the Giants do with Jalen Hurts, because he's really becoming a problem with his legs. He really, really, truly is. And we knew he could run, but he's becoming a real problem with his legs. And the Eagles are now looking like, okay, whatever you got to do, Jalen, just do that. If you got to run it 13 times, if you got to run it 15 times, do it, Sort of like, the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson sometimes. Like, okay, if Lamar got to run it 21 times this week, you got to run it 21 times. And I think they're starting to get to that point with Jalen Hurts. And if he can he's not dynamic like Lamar Jackson, obviously, but if he can do what he did against the Saints, like, running and then stop on a dime, break a dude off, cut inside, cut back all the way across the field and score a touchdown. If he's doing shit like that, he becomes that much more dangerous, does Jalen Hurts. So one thing I can be excited about is by the time we play them, we should have Montez Sweat back at least, because he's becoming a problem. But anyway, I digress. Captain Spartan 04, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Captain writes, draft Evan Neal and George Karlaftis. That's the DN from, I want to say he's at Iowa, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's one of those. No, he's at Purdue, I think. He's a Purdue Boilermaker, is George Karlaftis. He says, and sign Sheldon Richardson, steal Brandon Sheriff, or get Landon Collins back. Also need one last receiver. Ross, he's another guy that can't stay healthy to save his life. They can have, if they want Brandon Sheriff and they want to overpay, they can have him. I love Brandon Sheriff to death, and I know they want to keep him. Ron Rivera loves Brandon Sheriff, and his teammates love him. And he's a really good dude, and I can understand why they want to keep Brandon Sheriff. I just don't believe in paying guards top dollar. Watching what we've been able to do with the guard position, I just don't believe it's the smart investment, paying a bunch of money to a guard. I don't see the upside in that. But we already paid Brandon Sheriff enough money. Guys gouged us the last 2 years, and rightfully so. We put him in a position just like Washington did once upon a time with Kirk Cousins. We put him in a position to gouge us, and that's what you should do. When you're given the position to be in, and when you're put in a position of power, you have to flex that power. You have to take advantage of that power. And he flexed his muscles the last 2 years, getting $15 and $18 million respectively the last 2 years. I just don't see why you need to invest, long term in a $18, $19 million a year deal. I know the Cowboys have done that with their offensive line. I just don't think it's smart for us to do the same. But I know they want Brandon Sheriff back. I kept saying this is it for Sheriff, but if he remains healthy the rest of this year, plays well, he was an All-Pro last year, I don't know if they're going to get rid of him, but if the Giants want to overpay for him, they can be my guest. They need an edge rusher. They need some pressure. Sheldon Richardson would be a nice complement to what they already have on that defensive line with Williams. And, maybe a Karlaftis could actually give them, some juice off the edge. I don't know. He strikes me as another one of these, Ryan Kerrigan types. I got to see him, to believe that he's legitimate. I've watched games with him and he's done some things, but I wasn't blown away after leaving the game. You know what I'm saying? So I got to watch more of him to see if there's really some juice there or if he's just a try-hard guy that, comes with a ton of energy and, can fall into 2 or 3 sacks and, overpower a tackle or two, but he's not getting around the edge with any juice or bend or anything. So we'll see. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Door Gunner writes, what up, Lou? What up, Door Gunner? If Dallas loses on Thanksgiving and Washington football team and Philly win this week, then the last 5 weeks of the season could be nuts. Hashtag rip Sir Humps a lot. Oh, no, don't say that to me. Rips Sir Humps a lot. Don't say that to me. Oh, we were just becoming good buds. But you told me, hey, look, don't get comfortable with Sir Humps a lot. He's about to be Thanksgiving dinner. Oh, man, rips to Sir Humps a lot, man. They don't have to lose. I've already laid out a scenario because they're gonna beat the Raiders on Thanksgiving. The Raiders, I think, I like the direction the Raiders are heading in because we see them in 2 weeks. And after Dallas disposes of them, they'll have 10 days to prepare for us. I don't like that, but the fact of the matter is, I think that they're and we're coming off a short week and they're coming off of a long week. I don't like how the NFL set that up. But at the end of the day, worst case scenario, we should have been playing a home game against them, not a road game, because we got a Monday night game. Even though we don't have to travel, it's still a short week. And then we got to travel all the way out to the West Coast. I don't like how they set that up, but I'm not complaining about anything. They've been getting their asses handed to them the last few weeks, have the Raiders. And I think Dallas is going to take it to them on Thanksgiving, sort of like how they did the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. I think they're going to, really take it to the Raiders and blow them out. And I think they'll leave them reeling and, just a few scraps left on the table for us to get our hands on and sink our teeth into the following week. And then it's all NFC East games from there. And I've already said, we got to continue to win. That's the only thing we can control. And I always talk about controlling what you can control. And that's all we can worry about right now is we got to get back to 500. In order to make some real noise, we got to fight and scratch and claw our way back to 500. And that's what we're in the process of trying to do right now. You hate that you dug yourself such a hole where you put yourself in a position where, you got to win 4 straight just to get back to 500. But that's, the journey that we're currently on. And that's the position we put ourselves in. So, no complaining about what we did earlier in the season, no sense in crying over spilt milk and the Chargers game and the, Saints game and all of those games that were there for the taking. They're gone. We lost those games. So only thing you can now do is turn your attention to these games coming up. And, I look at the Seahawks like I did the Panthers last week. A very winnable football game, but a dangerous team nonetheless. I don't take them for granted. I don't think this is a game that we just, show up and they're going to give us the win. We're going to have to take it from them. Russell Wilson is not going to lie down. They're not going to, take a beating laying down. They're going to fight. So, and we think they're just going to show up. We're going to show up and this is going to continue to test the maturity of this team because we're in the same position as the Seahawks. We're just one game better than them. That's it. Let's not make it seem like, we're this, art thou holier than the Seahawks. You know what I'm saying? Like they are literally one game. They beat us. We got the same record as them. They're 4-7. We're 4-7. Like it feels like miles apart in terms of the way they're playing, the way we're playing. But shit, you one loss, and that's how the NFC is right now. Everybody's one loss away from the next guy. You think you're way better. I live on a much different street. You live close to the hood. Everybody's one block from the hood. Okay. Everyone wants to think that their block is much cleaner and nicer and there's no graffiti and there's no broken windows theory. You don't see any broken windows and graffiti here on our street. We don't have any abandoned buildings here. Well, you're one street away from the street that has all of that shit, okay? Everyone's right next to a team that they look down their nose at and say, oh, we're not them. Well, you're one game from being them, okay? The Vikings are 5-5. The 49ers are 5-5. The Saints are 5-5. And all of them are one game away from being 5-6 like Carolina. We look at the Falcons, we're like, oh, the Falcons stink. Man, they were awful on Thursday night. Guess what? The Falcons win one game, and the Vikings, Saints, and 49ers, they all lose a game. And obviously the Vikings and 49ers play each other. They can't both lose. But hypothetically speaking, all those teams lose a game and the Falcons win a game. And guess what? The Falcons are 5-6, just like the rest of those teams. And that's what I'm saying right now is that the NFC is so wide open and crazy that no one's better than anybody. So we got to focus on Seattle. Don't take them for granted and don't just assume, oh, they're struggling, we should be able to beat them. No, put the same laser-like focus on their ass as you did against Tampa and Carolina, and you'll beat them. But if you come in there high off of a couple of wins, drunk off of success, that's why I said the maturity level of this team is going to be tested. And I think we're in a much better position to not succumb to thinking that we've arrived. But we'll see. But to answer your comment, I've already come up with a scenario where Dallas beats Vegas because they're going to win that game, but they lose to the Saints. And really, it doesn't matter which one they lose. They could lose either one of those games. I don't care who it's against. I would prefer it to be the Saints because it's an NFC opponent, right? And they're capable of going to New Orleans on a Sunday night or, on a Thursday night and losing that game. But they probably should win because the Saints stink right now. That said, if they lose one, because they already lost to the Chiefs, which was a part of my equation, lose 2 out of the next 3, lost to the Chiefs. Now they just need to lose one more. And we win all 3. I've set up a scenario where, boom, our game in week number 14 is 8-4 Dallas against 6-6 Washington on a 4-game heater with a chance to cut that deficit to 1. And we play them again 2 weeks later in Dallas. And that game probably gets flexed to Sunday night more likely than not. And again, I hate when I talk about these things because I'm almost dismissing the Eagles as if they don't exist. They're ahead of us right now. They're 5-6. They get this Giants team that stinks. They should be able to handle them this upcoming week, get back to 500. In the race to 500, they're going to beat us there, but then they have a bye week after that. So then we have a chance to catch them at 6-6. Then they come off their bye and they got the Jets. They're going to beat the Jets, get to 7-6. Then the real games begin because then they play division games the remainder of the way. It's 2 against us, it's 1 against Dallas, and it's 1 against the Giants. So, or I think there's one more non-division game in there because they've already played the Giants once, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at their schedule real quick. I think they played the Giants already once. I feel like they did, but then again, maybe they didn't. Only one way to find out, and that's to go to the schedule and see. So, and of course, the ESPN app would want to act foolish when I'm looking. Let's see. Yeah, they haven't played the Eagles. I'm right. So they finish up with 4 games in the division. Us twice, Dallas once, and the Giants once. So shit'll get real for everybody in the division because the way the schedule makers set up our schedule, the entire division is backloaded in terms of divisional games. Ours is just the funkiest because it's 5 straight. But Dallas has like 4 out of their final 5 in the division. The Eagles have their final 4 games all in the division. And the Giants, I think, have like, 3 out of their final 4 in the division. So it's all set up funky because of how the schedule makers did it. But the division is going to literally come down if Dallas slips up. And again, they could, put all of that to bed. And I'm after whatever we can get our hands on. And if they make the division available, I want to get my hands on it. But at this point, I've conceded that Dallas should win this division, but nothing's out of bounds. They've looked really sloppy 2 out of the last 3 weeks with the ass whooping of the Falcons sandwiched in between 2 ugly losses, 1 to the Broncos and 1 to the Chiefs. So I'm not conceding anything. But I expect them to bounce back this week. And then I'm hoping that they slip up against New Orleans the following week. And that will make things quite interesting if we take care of our end, because it might not be us. It might be the Eagles that they really have to worry about. I'm trying to make it us. I don't want to go down without a fight. This is our division until somebody takes it from us. Why not us? Why can't we come back and take this thing if they don't want it? We'll see. Anyway. Captain Spartan, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Captain Spartan, writes, yeah, that's me. Jake, Junior, Jake, or Joker, or Jaker, got a million names. I know that now. I didn't know before. So, yeah. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, I see that now. So now I know. Gregory Lightbody writes, watched a few Seattle games, and if Washington can't force pressure, they won't win. Yeah, you got to get to Russell Wilson because they still have, really talented receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Despite what, contrary to popular belief and their inability to score these last, 3 weeks since Russell Wilson has returned to the lineup, despite that, or the last 2 weeks, and then, Geno Smith being in there, despite all of that, they're still dangerous because they got Russell Wilson and they got talent. So you definitely have to get pressure on them for sure. Niners fan writes, Lou, what are my Niners chances against many this week? Terrified of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, who can smoke our secondary, and Cook could run all over us. This will be our toughest test yet this season. You know what it is with Minnesota. I've already said this. The Titans and the Vikings are the same team. They just play in different conferences, okay? They can beat anybody because they can run the football, and they've got two dominant receivers on the outside. But they could lose to anybody because they're as inconsistent, and their quarterbacks are one and the same in Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill. I think Cousins is the superior of the two, but they're still one and the same. You don't think that either one of those guys can hitch a team to their back and carry them. And so I look at the game and I feel like you pretty much said it. If you get to Kirk Cousins, you're going to beat him. If you don't get to Kirk Cousins, if you don't slow down Dalvin Cook, really your best bet is to slow down Cook and force Cousins to beat you. Get them in a drop back situation where Cousins is a marked man, because Cousins will still, he's still skittish back there. You get pressure on him, he'll take some shots and throw the football up for grabs, But if you give him time, he will destroy that secondary. We've already seen that secondary is all kinds of banged up, and they've got receivers that can exploit a banged up secondary and take it to you guys. So the key is going to be to make Kirk Cousins beat you. If you can't get to Kirk, you're going to be in for a long afternoon. And on the flip side of that, you need to be able to establish the run yourself against that Vikings defense. And that will open up some of the things that you like to do and just continue to feature Deebo Samuel. It was good to see Brandon Ayuk get involved, and you need somebody else to come alive for you at the receiver position. Kittle being healthy always helps, but it's going to be a fun matchup. And the best part of it is somebody's got to lose. Somebody's got to take their sixth loss of the season. So there's someone I'm going to win. All the teams chasing after one of those wild card spots, they win. Somebody's got to lose. But yes, you can beat Minnesota. Absolutely. Metaphor, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Metaphor, writes, ESPN broadcast back on the Washington football team bandwagon, praising Ultra throughout, including how he worked Tampa and hype for next Monday night football. Well, that's the reason they're hyping him, is because they're trying to get people to watch that game. The reason the Mannings aren't doing that game is because it stinks. It's not going to be it's going to do good in the Washington market, but outside of that, the lay football fan isn't interested in this game. That's why the Mannings aren't doing it. They didn't have to do tonight's game. They didn't have to do the Chiefs game with the Giants. The only reason they did those games is because Eli is a Giants fan, so they did those games. But I mean, those games also featured Mahomes, and this one featured Brady. So again, those are games that they probably wanted to do anyway. But Russell Wilson is struggling. I mean, if Russell Wilson and the Seahawks have been playing well, maybe they are doing this game instead, but they're not. And so they need to hype this thing up and get people excited about Washington hosting Seattle, because the Seahawks stink right now, and Washington is 4-6. They're not much better at this current moment. This is the first time I think we've had a Monday night game in a while this season that, if at all, that has featured two teams with a losing record. Let's go through the Monday Night Football schedule and see if we've had a game at the time of that game where both teams had losing records. Monday Night Football schedule 2021. And let's see exactly what we've gotten to this point. So week 2, I mean, if we want to be technical, week 2 featured two 0-1 teams, the Lions versus the Packers. Okay, so that was 2 losing records there. But after that, no game featured 2 teams with losing records. Let's check out this Saints and Seahawks game from week 7. I think the Saints might have been over 500 by then, though. I'm pretty sure they were over 500 by then, because they beat Washington the week before, and then they got to their bye week at 4-2, if I'm not mistaken. So, nope, that didn't qualify. Yeah, so we haven't had a game featuring 2 sub 500 teams since week 2, and that was 0-1 Detroit versus 0-1 Green Bay. Like, who thought Green Bay would stink? And since then, Green Bay's won 8 out of their last 10. Like, okay, so this is the first time they've had to deal with a game where, from a record standpoint, we got to try to hype this thing up. But Heinicke's playing well. Like, he deserves to have people talking about him in a positive manner. He's actually playing really well. So, Metaphor, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, Metaphor, I know you hate stats. I don't hate stats. I hate people that try to use analytics and stats and data to try to support their case when their case, to me, falls short of the mark. But anybody tries to throw out numbers. Well, they're getting, 65% of the time on third downs against the blitz, they're completing. Like, get out of my face with that shit. You know what I mean? Like, we're watching the game, guys struggling with the blitz. I don't want to hear anything about what he should have done, because this is what the numbers analytically say. We can see that he's struggling with the blitz right now. He might have been destroying the Dolphins blitz. Well, this blitz looks different and he's struggling with it. That's the shit that I can't. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been so good against the blitz on third downs against teams with sub 500 records on Thursday night. Like, shut up. Get out of my face and shut up. Okay? That's the shit I don't like. Numbers, they mean something, and when used correctly, it can be beneficial. So anyway, I don't hate stats. I hate people, or I don't hate people. I don't like when people try to manipulate the stats to fit a narrative. That's what I don't like. Here comes, he said, here comes the but. But Taylor Heinicke, or TLH, highest rated QB by PFF this week. I saw the tweet. He was number 1, and I forget who was number 2, and Aaron Rodgers was number 3. I don't give a shit about PFF. I could care less about what PFF says. So that doesn't carry much weight with me. And guess what? You watched the game. I watched the game. Did Heinicke play well or not? I don't need PFF to tell me he played well. He went 16 of 20, okay, for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't need PFF to tell me that he played well. I watched the game. I know he was extraordinary. Thank you very much, PFF. Greatly appreciate you, though. Niners fan. Lou, I've been watching the collapse of the Seahawks this year and loving it. Hoping they trade Russ after the year and we can start to heal from the pain he's caused us the past decade. It kind of feels like that reign of terror that Brady and the Patriots had over the AFC East. There was a short reprieve from that, maybe a year or two. Really a year. That was it. The Bills won it. Now it looks like the Patriots are back for what they feel like is rightfully theirs. But I don't know. It's interesting because remember what the last offseason was in Seattle. It was filled with turmoil. And there was a brief spell there where we weren't sure if Russ was going to be a member of the Seattle Seahawks or not this upcoming season, And now that this season has gone to hell, well, it hasn't gone to hell in a handbasket because, again, don't pronounce them dead yet. Again, you know what the NFC is, right? Like I've already said, everyone likes to point at someone and say, look at them, and act as if their street is that much better. You're just one block over from where the carnage is, The only team that truly is in the hood in the NFC is the Lions, Even the Bears, who we don't think could bust a damn grape, right? They're only a couple of blocks away from you. Same thing with the Seahawks, just a couple of blocks away. They play you one more time in Seattle, and you've already beat them in San Francisco, or they've already beaten you in San Francisco. You got to come to them again. Like, this shit is not over. They beat us this week. You lose to Minnesota, and just like that, they're right a game behind you. So, again, don't pronounce them dead yet, but this has been a much different season for Seattle than what we've been accustomed to with Russell Wilson at the helm. And we haven't seen a season like this. Even the years where we thought it was going to be a down year, they still won 9 games, 10 games. And, either they missed the playoffs by a game, but they still had a over 500 record, or they went to the playoffs as a wild card. They always found a way to be better than what we thought, even the years where we didn't think they were going to be really good or they were supposed to be rebuilding. But yeah, I mean, Russ's injury, even before his injury, they were struggling. And his injury just kind of compounded matters because they probably would have beaten the Steelers if Russell Wilson was healthy. But yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. It is kind of fun watching, them, Pete Carroll's no longer happy-go-lucky Pete chewing a wad of gum, clapping it up. All right, guys, let's go. Let's get him. Pete's cutting off press conferences short. And he's being a little snippy with the media. I gotta say, it's like, going through the fridge and, for the longest time, the Seattle Seahawks have been Sunny D. It's all bright and it's all sunny and it's great. It's thick and it fills you up. You know what? It's nice to kind of go through the fridge and say, you know what? Give me the purple stuff. I don't want any Sunny D right now. Give me the purple stuff. That's what it's like watching Seattle struggle right now. Got some water, got some Sunny D. Nah, move that shit out of the way. Let me get the purple stuff. Oh, yeah. They're struggling over there. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm hoping my Washington football team can continue the struggles of the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm with you. I kind of have been enjoying their demise this year. And this has nothing to do with Russell Wilson. I'm a Russell Wilson fan. I'm just enjoying their demise overall. And because I thought they got a little bit too cocky this offseason. Like, Russ, bro, really? You need us just like we need you. Not exactly. You need Russ more than he needs you. So it's kind of fun to watch. But as far as him being traded, again, I can't see that happening. It doesn't make any sense to move on from him because without Russell Wilson, they cease to exist on the NFL map. They literally go into NFL. They go into NFL purgatory if Russell Wilson isn't their quarterback. So I don't see it happening. We'll see what happens, though. Reese says, back to our winning ways. Got a gimme here. Red hot Colts team coming next week. Absolutely. Got a gimme. You took advantage of it. You did what you were supposed to do with it. Again, you'll never hear me be upset at a team for leaking out, or as we like to call it, cherry picking, and you get a turnover. You were dragging ass in the backcourt. They throw out an outlet pass. I'm never going to be upset for you putting that 2 in the bucket. All right. That's what this was. You were cherry picking here. You You saw the Giants coming. He was like, hey, I'm going to just wait back here. Y'all grab the rebound or y'all get a steal. And they throw the outlet pass and you just put it in the bucket. Nothing wrong with getting a free 2, right? Nothing wrong with getting a free dub. Take advantage of it. See if this can't get you going now. You know, shooters, they just want to see the ball go in the bucket. Now you got one to go in. Maybe you get hot. We'll see. But speaking of hot, that's who's coming in town. And, you know, what they do best, you do really well, stopping the run. And hopefully you'll have Vita Vea. It sounds like he'll be back next week. I was scared because he got carted off at the end of that Washington game. I was nervous. Good to know that it wasn't anything serious and that there was an outside shot that he was going to play tonight. So that means more likely than not, barring any kind of a setback, he'll play next week. You'll need him because Jonathan Taylor is on a torrid pace right now. And if he continues, he may join the 2,000-yard club now. You know, the 2,000-yard club kind of loses a little bit of luster, you know, and if someone were to break Eric Dickerson's record, I think there's an asterisk that has to be put next to it because, you know, what O.J. Simpson did on his 2,000 yards, he did that in 14 games, okay? And so I think nobody's 2,000 yards is more impressive than O.J. Simpson's, but even 16, it's still tough to get to 2,000 yards in a 16-game, you know, season. I mean, you got to have a hell of a season, and you got to have some really big games intermingled in those 16 games. You got to have some huge outputs, you know, to get there. You're not just getting there by a steady dose of 100 yards because that's only 1,600 yards if you're averaging 100 per game. You got to have a couple of you got to have one 200-yard game somewhere in there, you know, a bunch of 125s and then another 150 to 175 in there somewhere. So you got to have some stellar games and performances. And it's got to be consistent because you're going to have the game where you only rush for 82. So that game where you rush for 202 makes up for the week that you only had 82 yards rushing. Jonathan Taylor's tearing it up. I said all that to say this. Jonathan Taylor's tearing shit up. And if you don't come ready to stop the run against the Indianapolis Colts, you too will fall victim and prey to what the Indianapolis Colts are doing. If you stop him and you force Carson Wentz to beat you, he's still Carson Wentz. He'll still turn it over. We've seen he will still do dumb shit. You got to make him do that, though. If you don't, he'll pick you apart. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. And it's in Indy. So I'm interested to see how you handle being on the road because your last 2 road appearances haven't gone well. You've been a great home team. You've been struggling on the road this season. So be interesting to see how that game goes for sure. Reese says, Joe Judge looks like a sleazy gas station attendant who hates his job and takes his anger out by trolling on the internet. Again, spot on, man. Joe Judge just, he looks a little rough around the edges, man. You know, he looks like a guy that definitely has some issues. You know, that's, I mean, and again, he could be the nicest guy in the world. I don't know him, Adam from Eve, but just on appearances, I think you've done it again, man. I think that's a really spot on assessment of what he looks like. Reese says, Lou, right when I think Devin White can't amaze me more, he says, watch this. He's a freak of nature. That he is. I think he's one of the best linebackers in all of football. And he continues to make plays on a weekly basis that boggles the mind. I'm right there with you. Got a super chat here from Get Caught Up, who writes, Lou, I know some part of you feel like we going to do them boys in on Monday night primetime at the crib. These struggling Hawks don't want to see this red-hot Washington football team. Of course it feels – a part of me feels that way, but I'm not going to allow that part of me to make an ass out of the rest of me because I know the struggles of this team on primetime, even though I think that was with the last administration. I'm not putting that on Ron because Ron hasn't failed me in primetime spots. We destroyed the Cowboys on Thanksgiving last year. We beat the Eagles when they put us. It wasn't pretty, okay? I don't give a shit what it looks like. I don't care about the aesthetics. I just want to win. We beat the Eagles last year. And then in a primetime spot in wildcard weekend against the Bucs, we showed well. So I haven't been disappointed not a single time. And then the Giants this year, beating them in a thriller on primetime Thursday night, week 2. So Ron has not disappointed. This team has not disappointed under Ron in primetime, under the bright lights, big stage of a primetime game. So I don't think that those, fears that we've had in the past are something that need to concern us now. I just look at the opponent and I say, don't sleep on them They're wounded. Their back is against the wall. That's when teams are their most dangerous. Okay. And here we are having our first bout of success. How are we going to handle that? That's the real question. Is if we play our game, Seattle, with the way they're playing, they can't beat us. But are we going to play our game? That's the question. If we do, I see us being victorious. But they're not going to give it to us. We got to take it from them. Thank you for the super chat. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB once again, who says, we know PFF just telling those that don't care. Monday Night Football. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Man, I knew what the T was supposed to be in it. I knew what you meant. And you know me. We've talked enough. You know how I feel about PFF. So I saw the tweet, though. You know, I saw the little graphic with him. And like I said, I can't remember who number 2 was. But Rodgers was 3rd. And, yeah, he had a hell of a game. We watched the game. Like, I don't need PFF to tell me that. You know what I would be impressed with? And honestly, I don't even care when they tell me this. But, if they were to say, hey, we graded, Cole Holcomb or Cam Curl is our top-rated defender of the weekend. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's what I would say. I don't give a shit. I watched the game. Cam Curl was amazing. Cole Holcomb, outstanding. I don't need PFF to tell me that. Sorry, not sorry. Somebody's playing like ass and they tell me he's playing great. Oh, you know what I treat PFF like? I treat them like the combine. It's only a story when it's the opposite. To me, they're the ultimate duh, right? Like, tell me Taylor Heinicke's had the best weekend of any quarterback. You may argue that there might have been some other quarterbacks. I don't know what everyone's statistical day looked like, right? But I'm saying, duh. I watched the game. I know how well he played. Tell me that somebody who played like shit played wonderful and I got it wrong. That's when I go, huh, really? You don't say. I wonder what game they were watching. That's interesting. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't really gain anything noteworthy from PFF. So, you know how I feel. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Metaphor writes, sleepless in Seattle now. Pete Carroll meet Tom Hanks. They're struggling right now, but again, I'm not gonna berate the Seahawks. I'm not gonna have a bunch of Seahawk jokes because I don't find it funny right now. I'm watching their demise from afar and I'm saying, wow, didn't see that coming. But I want to continue to help the demise further. Like, I'm not looking to stop their slide and help them get right. I want them to go into the tank, and I want to be a team that say, hey, we contributed to them being 3-10. We got ours. Everybody else is getting theirs. Let me get mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when I get frustrated. When I look at everybody else, like, that's what pissed me off about the Chiefs. Everybody else was getting theirs. Let me get mine. We weren't good enough to get ours. And Mahomes tried to give it to us. They had 3 first-half turnovers. Let me get mine. We picked them off twice. Mecole Hardman fumbled. They were trying to give it to us, and we weren't good enough to get our piece. That's frustrating. Everybody else is like, well, shit. They're giving out free wins. Let me get mine. I wanted one. I wasn't good enough to get one. Everybody's looking at Seattle like, oh, y'all giving away dubs? Let me get mine. Well, let me get mine. I hope we don't allow these bastards to get off the hook because they're handing out dubs. They're struggling to get to 20 points. All right. I've already said this to you guys 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. You're not going to win a lot of NFL games scoring less than 20 points. Okay. This is not 1987. You're not going to score 13 and win a bunch of games. You'll win one every now and again. We just saw the Jaguars beat the Bills 9-6. Those are so few and far between, however. The Browns beat the Vikings earlier this season, I think 13-7. Like that, or 14-7 or something like that. That's not going to happen very often, okay? You got to score 20 plus to even have a shot. And the Seahawks are struggling to score 20 right now. Let us not be the team that lets them off the hook and give them confidence to say, hey, we can score. So my whole thought process is, hey, they handing out free dubs. Well, let me get mine. So we'll see what happens. But Seattle's still a dangerous team, if you ask me. I'm not looking at them as the Seattle Seahawks that is struggling. I'm looking at them like, hey, y'all still got Russell Wilson. Y'all still got DK Metcalf. Y'all still got Tyler Lockett. Y'all still got Jamal Adams. You still got Bobby Wagner. I still respect y'all. We got to go take it to these boys. They're not going to give us nothing. So, and they got pride. Don't think that they don't. They got pride. So we'll see what happens. Another super chat here from 16th Devil Doc. Thank you for the super chat, 16th Devil Doc, who writes, and first of all, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, if Heinicke was a 7th round pick this past year, how different would the reaction be to his play this year? It'd be totally different. But here's the thing. You said two things, but you only acknowledged one of them. You said if he was the 7th round pick this year, which would mean he would be a rookie quarterback. There would be a different field if this dude was 23 years old. The man's 28 years old, okay? Like, it's totally different when you're 28 and you were undrafted, right? That means you bounced around, you've been around the block a couple of times, you weren't good enough, you couldn't cut it, right? The man isn't a 23-year-old 7th round pick. Had you just said, and what if Heinicke was a 7th round pick instead of undrafted? Would that have mattered? And he's still 28. Maybe it matters, you know. But I mean, I'll give you an example of that. Mike White. What was he? 7th round, 6th round pick for the Cowboys? I think he was like a 6th round. No earlier than a 5th. I think he was a 6th round pick out of Western Kentucky by the Dallas Cowboys back in like 2018, 2017. I think it was a 2018 draft. He was in that draft with Josh Allen and company, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it was 2018. That's right around the time Taylor Heinicke would have been coming into the league. I think Heinicke, though, was like more along the lines of like 2016. Okay. But that's not the point. The point is we're far removed from that draft class, right? He has that ridiculous game against the Bengals, and everybody's like, oh my God, look at Mike White. Right? And I had Washington fans say, we need to get Mike White. Now, these are the people I say, hey, you go sit over in timeout, zip it, give me the key. Come on, hand it over. Let me have it. Those are the people that I escort to the corner, face the wall. No, I don't want to hear it. Turn around, face the wall, zip it, hand me the key. Okay? And you get a few of those from time to time. But you saw the reaction to him having that one game. Oh my God, Mike White. Look at this guy. He's amazing. And then you look at Taylor Heinicke, 6'0", 200 pounds. He's balding. He's 28 years old. He was out of the league. He was studying for, to finish one of his math degrees. And here he is making plays, and nobody really wants to acknowledge that this guy's playing good football because he's Taylor Heinicke. At his best, he's Jeff Garcia. At his best. And nobody's afraid of Jeff Garcia. Damn good NFL quarterback for many years. So at the end of the day, if Heinicke were a 7th round pick in this past year's draft, it'd be much more exciting because you spent the draft pick on this kid. So you believed in him, obviously, and he'd be 23 years old. You could hitch your wagon to him for the future potentially. But he's 28, and he wasn't drafted, and so the league is already passed judgment on him. He is what he is. We know who this guy is. He's got a ceiling, and I've already talked about it. He's got a ceiling. He's got a glass ceiling. It's up to him to shatter that glass ceiling, but it exists because of his arm strength, because of his size, okay, because of his age. There are a lot of things working against him. It's his job to shatter that glass ceiling that's been put on top of him. So, anyway, would the reaction be different? Yes, it absolutely would be different. I think the reaction to him would be different had he just been drafted. But forget about had he been drafted this year. Had he been drafted 6 years ago, if a draft pick was spent on him, he may have gotten more opportunities than when you're undrafted. You're a camp arm at that point. When you're undrafted, you're essentially a camp arm. Come help us out, throw to these receivers, run the scout team, do the things that we need, camp arms to do. Throw to these receivers, these, guys that might make the back end of the roster. Captain Spartan 04, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Captain Spartan writes, by the way, didn't know Peyton grew a beard. I never knew that either. That was the first time I'd ever seen. Now, you heard what he said. That was a preseason beard. He cut it before the regular season. So who back in Peyton Manning's heyday in India, who was watching preseason? Like, we just started watching preseason football like this. When I was growing up as a kid, I could have given two shits about preseason football, right? I damn sure, if it wasn't my favorite team, I damn sure wasn't watching it. Like now, and even now, I'm still skittish. I'm hit or miss. I try to watch as many preseason games as I can, but I really don't care. But I try to get a feel. But now with the teams doing what they're doing, where they're passing, they're punting on the entire preseason, you can't get a feel for who's who and what's what. The only thing you get a feel for is, does this team have depth? Like, even though Atlanta didn't play anybody, I was like, they don't have shit behind their front line starters. They don't have anything. You can tell. That's the thing you can tell in the preseason is who has depth. If injuries take effect, who's going to be able to withstand those injuries and still be competitive? I can tell you the Falcons, they don't have it. They need their frontline guys to be healthy. So who would have known Peyton Manning grew a beard in his 6th year in the league, in the preseason and cut it before the first regular season game that year? Like, nobody would have known unless you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, right? Had no idea he grew a beard. I'm with you on that. Anyway, we've hit our hour and 15-minute mark. See where we left off. See if there are any more comments I need to take. I think we stopped right here. Juan Gotti talking sports says, sup, Lou? First of all, sup to you, Juan Gotti. Saw your first TV appearance video. Great stuff, man. Mind telling us how that came about, and will we see you on TV more in the future in that capacity? I doubt it. I mean, I feel like the TV medium is a great medium for ex-players, ex-coaches, people that are closely tied to the league. Someone like myself, I feel like the future is right here where I'm at. This is more accessible to people than being on television. Now, I personally don't care to be famous. Like, I don't even think that's something that I want, truly, honestly. Like, that's a different burden. And people don't understand what being famous does to your life. It changes everything. And I kind of like the life that I have. I'm an outgoing guy, but I'm a private guy too. And I like to keep my shit private. And when you become a public figure, your shit is no longer private, and so I don't know if TV is ever. I can tell you this: when I first sought out to become a content creator, the goal was to have my own show on NFL Network. That was the goal. I had a whole show. I had a whole script of how the show was going to go, what it was going to be called, all of that stuff, and I had marketing schemes for it, everything. I knew what time slot I wanted on NFL Network, the whole 9 yards. And as I got more and more into this, I realized that's not what I want. This right here is what I want. And to be in control over my shit, to be able to say what I want to say, when I want to say it, how I want to say it, with no one telling me how I'm going to say it, how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it. The reason I do what I do is because I don't want to work for anyone else. BYOB has been the mantra since I've been able to call myself a member of the workforce. BYOB. Nope, not bring your own bottle. Be your own boss. I wake up whatever the hell time I want. I eat whenever I want. No one's telling me when I punch the clock. No one's telling me when I get to go take a shit. No one's telling me when I have to show up for work or when I get to take vacation days. I tell myself when I get to do those things. So I don't know if TV's for me personally. Now, again, if an opportunity came, you always consider things, right? But honestly speaking, that's not something that I'm actively seeking. With that said, how did that opportunity come about? It's honestly not that big of a deal because it was local television. You can buy your own TV time, and that's what that person had done. And she had just seen some of my content. She thought that I was knowledgeable, and I was right in that lane that she was looking for. And I thought it was pretty cool though to see how a TV set works and how we had to do so many takes. And I'll just say this and then we'll move on because nobody cares. We had to do so many takes because she was so nervous and she was so nice, and she was trying to be, Lisa Salter. She was trying to be, Aaron Andrews. She was trying to be that. And that's why she was doing that show. That's why she paid for TV time, to block off to do that show. And she just was so nervous, you know what I mean? And we literally, what should have taken us an hour to do, it took us like 4 hours. And I was killing it. I was comfortable. I was in my element. I thought I was going to be nervous and I wasn't. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I actually tried to do something similar to that, in my local area, but it didn't jive. And I couldn't get the time slot that I wanted. If I'm going to pay my own hard-earned money for a TV slot, I need the slot that I want, and I couldn't get it. So I said, to hell with it. Reed writes, Mike Evans has the most TDs in the NFL since 2014, and the man still gets no damn respect. He's not flashy. He doesn't, he's not a me guy, and that's why. That position, it demands that if you want people to, if you want to garner the type of respect that comes with that position, you need to be outspoken and vocal and in people's mouths all the time. I liken his career to that of Andre Johnson. Like, Dre was one of the best receivers of his era. No one ever really gave Dre the respect. Why? Because Dre wasn't that guy. Just went about his business human-like. You go look at Dre's numbers, and he put together some years there where you're like, whoa, like this is ridiculous. Same thing with AJ Green in Cincinnati. Another guy. I think he started off his career with 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons or whatever. And he put up some ridiculous numbers in Cincinnati. But he wasn't that dude. He didn't want the spotlight. He just wanted to go out and do his job. His idol was Larry Fitzgerald. Like, that's Mike Evans. That's the thing, is Mike's just a guy that goes about his business. So it's easy for him to get lost because he's not flashy like Justin Jefferson, or he's not saying, what the Kirk? He's not as animated and doing those things. And we hear it. And now we're like, oh my God, Justin Jefferson, what a competitor. No, Mike Evans is the same damn competitor like Justin Jefferson. He's just not out here doing all of that stuff. So, that's how it is. You know how the business goes, man. But he just keeps doing this thing. He'll end up in Canton. You can't deny the numbers. He'll end up in Canton when it's all said and done. I want to know, is he good? He looked like he pulled up a little lame after he caught that deep over route in the fourth quarter. He told him, hey, come get me. I just want to make sure he's okay because you can't afford to lose him. Captain Spartan 04 says, hold on, let me check and see if I got a super chat. I feel like I'm missing one here. Yeah, I got one from Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. Is this a double up? I feel like this is a double up. Nope, this is your third one. Who writes, Ramon's famous across the pond eating vegan crumpets. Ramon is a special individual, but I told you guys what happened to Ramon, but he's been resurrected, and he left some little ones behind, and they'll carry on his lineage for years to come, I hope. We'll see what happens, but anyway, I digress. So I think I'm about to get out of here. Talked your head off long enough. Let's see. Where did we leave off? I'm going to just grab a couple more on the way out, and we'll get out of here. Reese says, what a horrible pick that was. Daniel Jones threw the Steve McClendon. Yes. And that's like, he's got to go. That's why he's got to go. Because those are the types of plays where you just say, what the hell are you doing, dude? Reese says, if you look at our history versus the Giants, they usually always give us a hard time. I was expecting that again. They always give us problems. It surprised me. Remember the game last year on Monday night? That's why they put this game on Monday night again, because it was thrilling theater. It was compelling. We didn't get that again tonight. Derek B says, I didn't even know Barkley was playing until the third quarter. Guns and shit, my ass. What did I tell you? They got guns and shit, but it doesn't matter because they got weapons. I'm pretty sure if you give those types of weapons that the Eagles or that the Giants have to, Aaron Rodgers, or you give it to, I would say you gave those weapons to Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, and they're tearing shit up. They got guns and shit. Don't make it seem like they don't have talent. But I said, we'll see if he knows how to take the safety off. That's the problem. Still got to have the right trigger man. Juan Gotti says, Seattle, I'm nervous. Why? This game versus us is for their season. And I said that already. Their backs are against the wall. They're a wounded bird right now. And that's when you get usually the best the team has, when they know this is it. That's what happened with us against Tampa. Our backs were against the wall. I'd already christened our season over, and most of us had. But they had other ideas, and I'm glad they did. He says, fall to 3-8 and their season is done. I got faith, but anytime you got 3, you got a chance. I feel the exact same way. Reese says, happy Thanksgiving again, Lou. I'm thankful for you. I struggle with my mental health, and there have been times where I've been so low and your content has picked me up. And I know there's been that before in the past, and I hope you continue, because a lot of times that's an ongoing battle, man. And so I hope you continue to get stronger and stronger in that capacity. And again, like I said, I try to do what I can do, man. And you've always been a staunch supporter of the Louie T Network. And so I really do appreciate you as always, Ree. And happy Thanksgiving to you and yours as well. Derek B says, seeing Devin White's speed on full display gives me hope for Jamin. That's a high standard to hold Jamin to. I'm if we could get Jamin Davis to just fly around, that's all I'm really looking for. He's, what I've been really impressed with Jamin, he's been cerebral, right? Really, really smart football player. Like, I was so impressed with him as early as week 3. You remember the 4th down play early against the Bills in that game where he sifts through traffic. They try to run a pick route. He tackles the running back, Singletary, short of the first down, and we take over on downs early in that ball game. He's smart. Now I just need him to use those smarts and use his athleticism at the same time. It's like usually one or the other. He's a smart dude, and you see it on the field. I love smart football players. The only thing I love more than a smart football player is a smart, athletically gifted football player, which he is. Now I just need him to put all of it together. The more he plays, the more likely that is to occur. Atlas writes, good recovery week for my team today, but until they can string these together, we're still frauds. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. A week isn't a week unless Atlas calls somebody a fraud. There we have it. His Buccaneers, still fraudulent. Let's see. Grab a couple more and get out of here. Extra Squaw says, remember when the Giants fans thought they were going to win the division? Anyways, both 6 and 7 seeds are available. We got to finish our own food, though. That's the thing, is we got a plate in front of us, There's lots to eat on it. I see Raiders, I see Seahawks, I see Cowboys, I see Giants, Eagles. Lot of food on the plate. Can we finish it all? Are we going to play around with our food? Will we be left sitting at the table while everybody else is out partying in the postseason and they get to the dance? Are we still going to be, because you remember what mama said, boy, don't get up from that table till you finish all your food, and you better eat all of those vegetables. Are we going to be still sitting at the table eating our food? Or are we going to get up and be able to go out to the party and have dessert? That's the real question. Juan Gotti says, this time of the year is bittersweet because it's the holiday season, but we all know it's Lou's bye week is coming, and I swear this is the slowest week of my life. Again, Lou, all seriousness, enjoy, my man. There's a lot going on, though. Even on this bye week, college basketball, there's going to be a bunch of tournaments. They're usually good with, like, Duke. I'm a Duke basketball fan. We play Gonzaga in one of those big tournaments, you know, so it's 1 against 2, essentially. I'm going to tell you, I don't think we won. I don't think we're 2. I know Gonzaga's 1. We might be like 2, 3, or 4 or something like that. We started out 9th in the country. But whatever the case may be, there's a lot going on. There'll still be football. There'll be NBA basketball, NBA for you to consume. There'll be college ball. There'll be Michigan, Ohio State on the Saturday, of Thanksgiving weekend every year. That's always a big contest. Both of those teams are good, even though we probably know what's going to happen. Jim Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. If he can't beat them this year, he'll never beat them. They're vulnerable, even though C.J. Stroud just had the best game of any quarterback in Ohio State history, and that was without even playing like pretty much the entire second half. And so they're playing good right now, but they're still vulnerable, is Ohio State, you know, so we'll see. It's still a lot to do, you know, minus, you know, the bye week. But anyway, I digress. All right. Thinking we can get out of here now. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I really appreciate you guys joining me on the show. Bucs dominate this game, and it could have been a lot worse. Honestly, you know, if the Bucs were truly in sync, if they had Antonio Brown, really, they didn't even need Antonio Brown. They just needed to be more in sync. If they were in sync, this would have been 45-10. But they're still trying to figure some things out, iron out some kinks that they're having. We saw this same thing last year. And so they're getting guys healthy. That's the key thing on defense, which is huge because their defense has been a problem for them this year. It's been inconsistent. And when they're at their best, their defense is just as good as their offense. It's complementary football. And you got a little bit of that tonight with them forcing the turnovers and setting up some short fields for that offense and really allowing the Buccaneers to pull away in this ball game. Really, it was all on the defense's backs and shoulders to do that. And they took care of business in that regard. So Bucs are now 7-3, just a half game out of first place in the NFC conference. You know, again, Cardinals and Packers are 8-3. And this Buccaneers team, no one's talking about them. They've been, you know, struggling of late, and there they sit, one half game behind the number 1 seed in the NFC conference. In the NFC, I have to stop saying the NFC conference. It's the C in NFC stands for conference. Meanwhile, the Giants, they look like they could easily be one of the worst teams in the NFC, and they're trending in that direction. If they can't figure out a way to win some division games down the stretch, they're going to ultimately be one of the worst teams in football. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I do have a super chat here that I want to get to real quick. 1/6 Devil Doc, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Right. Hoping we don't end up back with the boys in the hood. You and me both, man. I mean, Misery loves company, man. And it's like that old crabs in a barrel, in a bucket discussion. Really the family don't want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you come up. The Giants are like, hey, we stink. You need to come with us. The Eagles like, hey, I don't know where we going with Jalen Hurts. We may go somewhere, we may not. But if we ain't going nowhere, you can't go nowhere. You know how it is. Don't nobody ever want to see you succeed. Don't nobody want to see you win. So we gotta guard against that, and we gotta find a way to get as far away from the slums as possible, because everybody tries to act as if it's okay to go home to the hood. The hood don't love you, okay? The hood don't love you. You try to love the hood, but it's always somebody in there jealous and envious of you. And you think it's all sweet because you back home where it all began and where you grew up, but it's always somebody lurking around the corner, man. F that dude. He think he the shit. I don't want to find ourselves, traveling in those parts, man. I'm trying to move as far away from that as possible. I know we're not gonna make it to the nice part of town with the Bucs and the Packers and the Rams and the Cardinals are at. That's a little too high of a price range for us. But we can be middle class. Why can't we have nice things? I've always said, why can't we have nice things? Right? Like, I know we can't afford a Tesla, And it's not like you got to be rich to afford a Tesla, but that's out of our price range. But why can't I have a nice Hyundai, Sonata? Why can't I have something nice? With all the fixings inside, has all the luxury specs of a BMW, of a Mercedes. It's just a Sonata, but it's souped up. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I want to move, not worry about anybody breaking in my car. Not worried about if I got to let the neighbors know I'm going out of town, watch my house. I just want to live somewhere nice. Why can't we have nice things? We're starting to save up our money. We got our eye on a nice house in a nice part of town, in the middle class section. But we got to find a way to win enough games, to save enough money, to move. We'll see if we can do that or not. Captain Spartan 04 writes, sadly, Devin Bush won't even be close to Devin White. And I remember I was a Devin Bush guy in that year's draft. I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, you're so right. He's not even in the same stratosphere as Devin White. It was the two Devins, and I was like, you know what? Give me Devin Bush. And a lot of people looked at me and said, this guy's funny. This Louie T guy's hilarious. Give him Devin Bush over Devin White. Okay. We'll see how that goes. They were right. I was wrong. And I told you I'll always be the first to admit when I'm wrong. Boy, was I wrong. I offered up a 00 to Devin White already. A long time ago. Gave up that 00. You can see it. I thought DK Metcalf was going to stink. I gave him his 00 like 8 games into his rookie season. You know when you know when you know. Okay? I don't need 3 seasons to know. You know when you see talent. It doesn't take long. Okay, yeah. I got that one wrong. My bad. You know. You know when you know when you know. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys, remember, bye week coming Wednesday, last day of the work week. Then you will not see me again until Monday. Normally, it wouldn't be until the following Thursday, but Washington plays on Monday, so that I'll be back home. Why not, right? So hopefully I'll be back in enough time to fire up the MOBB, do all of that good jazz, and watch the game with them. And then I'll definitely be on for overtime on Monday night of Washington and Seattle. But I will have a podcast tomorrow, breaking down week number 11. We will have Washington Football Nightly tomorrow night. You'll get Washington Football Nightly on Wednesday. You will not get one on Thursday, but you will get one on Friday. So that will be a pre-recorded show. So if anything else happens, obviously I won't be able to speak on that because it was pre-recorded. But you'll have that on Friday, my keys to the game, things of that nature. And so we'll see what happens with that. But that's essentially it, Until then, I really appreciate each and every single one of you. Again, if I don't see you between then and now, happy holidays and happy Thanksgiving. And again, enjoy everything, the 5 F's, as I like to call it: faith, food, family, friends, and football, in whatever order suits you best. But that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless, and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.